Okay, so let's dive into some sample prints. We'll look at various materials over the first week of ownership, some of my first test prints with each of the type of materials. Keep in mind, these were the first prints I did, and I was switching materials back and forth, so the bed leveling and the nozzles were calibrated, but I've learned some things since then to make it even better. Most of the models in this video were sliced and printed using the Sindoh desktop software unless otherwise noted. This model is the top cover of an Arduino case, and it's printed in the Sindoh PLA blue filament with standard settings. Okay, I'll remove it from the bed. For each material, I like to note how easy or hard it is to pop it off the bed after flexing. And now we'll do a look under better lighting. So I do notice some stringing here in between the posts, but that's easy to pull off. Could have to do with retraction settings or temperature settings. But the finish here is really nice. I have good success with PLA on these machines. Here's the bottom of the case printed in white Sindoh PLA. And while the edges and flat surfaces of this model are really good, there's an anomaly with this model that the posts, or the little pegs that stick up, the way that they are concentric circles depending on the nozzle width and the wall width, they just snap off depending on what slicer I used. I don't have this problem when I use Simplify 3D, but I always had this problem with the Sindoh slicing software, so probably something I need to tweak, but I've seen this before. Here's the first two-color model I designed and printed. I did it in Fusion, had to learn how to do two different components, put them in the Sindoh software, and point to which cartridges it would print so that it would come out like this. And then here's another print of that Arduino case bottom, and disregard the blue stripes in it. I didn't clean out the nozzle first, so it started printing with some blue and then white on top of it, so you're actually seeing the blue through the white layers. But this one, I either tweaked it so that these pegs are strong, or truth be told, I might have printed it with Simplify 3D. I just can't remember at this point, but the pegs didn't break off, and I wanted to check for proper fitment here. And it snaps together really nice. Makes a nice little Arduino case. And again, we're still on Sindoh PLA. And here's a sports bag tag I did. It's purple and white, both Sindoh PLA. And here it's doing the purple outline around the white that it's already done on the initial layers. Let's take a quick listen to what it sounds like when it's printing. And I'll just step through some progress shots of it printing until completion. And here it's finishing up that top layer. Now I don't have an evaluation video of this one under the better lighting, but as you can see, it looks pretty nice. Again, Sindoh PLA on both. And here's just a neat little hang loose logo that I printed in two color Sindoh PLA. Now there are some marks on the finish here, but again, I was still tweaking the settings. And realize this is under very bright LED lighting with the camera really close on a big screen, so any blemishes really stand out. Let's take a look at the Oreos. I keep printing them. Maybe I'll end up with a whole box full. That would be good, because they look really good. This is just PLA, black and white. And they weren't printed all at once. They were just print separately, the black and the white. And then I either snap fit them together or glued them together. I modified these and put a little loop on them, so you could hook them on a clasp. And of course they're threaded, so you can put small pieces of jewelry or some other small items in here. And I actually printed some of these on different Sindoh models. I think I printed like the cookies on a 3DWOX 1 and the white fillings on the 2X. And the repeatability was good. I actually got them to thread together off different machines. Oh yeah, and then there's the Big Mama Oreo. Here's Big Mama Oreo before assembly. Here I'll thread together the triple stuff inner filling. Big Mama Oreo can hold 3 Hershey's miniatures. Very nice quality. Now I switch to open material mode. This is third-party black PLA filament printing the outside of a Camaro logo. And now it just brought in the second head and is starting the orange PLA Hatchbox third-party filament. It appears I need a little adjustment on the layer height to squish that initial orange layer down a little better. It seems to have those first layers down in both colors, so now it'll just continue switching heads back and forth, working its way up the height of the model. Here's some infill action on the orange Hatchbox PLA. And now the bed removal and evaluation. I just noticed the dual color skirt around this model, which means I must have printed this with Simplify 3D. Sindoh desktop software doesn't print dual color skirts right now. Nice, for my first attempt at the open material on this machine using the Hatchbox PLA. I like the quality. I actually made this by request, but maybe I should keep it and mount it here on the side of the printer. So open material PLA at the same settings as the Sindoh worked just fine. Now I typically don't print in ABS, but I wanted to give it a test with this printer. Usually I have warping issues, especially on the edges, and I expect even with the 90 Celsius bed, it's going to do the same thing. The nice thing is with the 200 watt bed, it really brings it up to temperature a lot faster than their other machines. Now we're getting to some of the solid layers of the ABS print. This is Sindoh ABS, by the way, this gray, and I've had it for about 4 years, but it seems to be printing okay. Like I said, I don't print a lot in ABS. With the HEPA filters, I really don't smell anything while printing ABS. And here it is. So you see there is some warping here, but it's not as bad as it was on some of the other machines. And again, this is a flat model with solid faces. I did get some stringing here. I used the default settings for ABS. And now a bed removal and evaluation of the Sindoh ABS print. A little bit of warping here as we saw. Comes off the bed no problem. Again, some stringing here, which will need to be removed and cleaned up. There's a strange diagonal line here, which I didn't see on the PLA. Is that where the layers start and stop? Now the bottom surface that was on the bed seems pretty nice. Might need a little tweaking here or there for the flow. Inside, these screw bosses are very strong because it's ABS, and also so is the grill for the same reason. I then printed the bottom case, which is the companion piece, using the same Sindoh ABS filament. And I printed another one on a raft to see if it would help out with the warping on the corners. Now there's still some warping in this one corner down here, but it's much less pronounced than it was since it's on a raft now. These little pegs are a little stronger. Not as strong as I would think they would be though for ABS, but again, I think it has to do with the wall thickness settings. And while the raft peels off easily enough, the raft looks okay on its surface. But the bottom of my print really doesn't look as good as when I print directly on the bed, which is one of the reasons I avoid rafts a lot of the time. And that's really all I did in ABS. I thought I would try something more challenging, so I went into open material mode and found some PETG or PETG filament I had laying around. Now I had to create a custom profile in the Sindoh desktop software using some settings that I thought worked on my previous Sindoh printers. Well, we can see this first layer is not really good. Actually, it's really bad. But again, this is an open material, had to create a profile, and I had to learn as I went along to try to get this perfected. Yeah, the first layer was pretty nasty, but I let it keep going. Now it's printing the second color, the bright green PETG, which is equally as nasty, but I let it continue. Well, it's hard to say. I don't have a lot of experience with PETG. I guess it's okay, but I thought I would tweak the settings and try again, try to get a better first layer at least. Let's look at it here under the light a little bit. And there's certain spots that are pretty bad. This edge got all messed up. The edges, I don't know, bottom doesn't look so good. The top isn't so bad, but let's try again. Offhand, I don't know exactly what I did to tweak the settings, but I have them saved and written down somewhere. But this first layer, at least in the gray, looks a lot better. Something tells me that I set the offset for the Z gap for the first layer to be significantly higher, almost like laying the filament down on the bed instead of squishing it down on the bed. And also, I think I turned the fan off. Now this is only my second or third try with PETG, and it was over a year ago. I don't print with it a lot, so I think it looks okay, but I'm sure it's not as perfect as people who have a lot of experience in it, but it's a lot better than my first attempt. Evaluation under better lighting. I see a burn mark on the right here in the green. Certainly looks better than the first attempt. The edges look nicer. The bottom looks nicer. Even the top surfaces. Now I see a gap between the green and the gray there, so I guess the XY calibration is going to need some fiddling. Another two-color print in PETG. I seem to be getting some schmutz buildup on the cleaning cases when changing nozzles. I had to occasionally clean the schmutz out of the cleaning case with a pair of needle nose pliers, but I got through it. Bed removal and eval. You tell me. I don't print in PETG, so I don't know what to expect. It looks acceptable to me. being that I should gain some extra strength over using PLA, but I'm not sure what to expect. Oh, flexible filament, thou art a bitch. The love-hate relationship I have with flexible filament. It can be so awesome if it prints right, but it can be very challenging to print successfully. The fact that it's working at all with a Bowden extruder, I guess we should take that into account. The first thing that I noticed is the flexible filament really seemed to put down a nice bead. That first layer might have been nicer than the PLA or any other filament. Part of the reason I think this wave bracelet prints so well and flexible is because it's just an outer shell. There's really no inner fill or anything like that. Alright, let's check it out. Looks pretty nice. Pops right off. This is the Sindoh flexible white filament. It's very strong. You're really not going to break it easily. So the quality of this Sindoh flexible filament is really nice, but again, it has to do with the model. The model was designed well and lends itself to print well with flexible filament. And I printed some different sizes. Now I was looking for some models to print and show off the flexible filament, and I stumbled upon this octopus, but it really didn't turn out as expected. And that's totally my fault. I wasn't familiar with this material to start with, and it seems the Sindoh flexible filament has some hard properties to it, but is also flexible. So it seems it works better if you print thin walls, almost in vase mode, works really well. But I did an infill on these, and it turned out almost solid, and I wasn't prepared for that, but I learned as I went along, choosing a really low infill and just printing some outlines. And while his tentacles are flexible, his head is just about solid. Too much infill. Now the rocket came out nice. I printed a shell only and no infill. Now it does have Dairy Queen with the curl on top, but that was real fine up there at the top, and it was melting and it's flexible. But look at this. You can just squeeze it. It's very pliable, very durable. Pretty cool. I purchased some additional colors of flexible filament from Sindoh. Here's a green that I did some Flex 44 bag tags in. Did them in Fusion myself and printed them up. It's flexible and very durable. Nice. Now I made some attempts along the way at dual extrusion, dual color flexible filaments. In the end, I'm going to call them all failures. And the reason for that is I had to do a lot of intervention. Well, first of all, the quality didn't come out that good, but it wouldn't even have come out as good as it did had I not taken pliers and pulled excess material out of the cleaning case and off the head as it went. It seems that the nozzle at rest just waits over there and oozes, and no matter what you do with the retraction, it's just not a good situation. And they do tell you that, to be fair, that you may have quality problems with dual extrusion on flexible. So I'd call this an advanced topic. I put a little time into it. It can work, but there's a lot of intervention required, so I'm going to call that a fail and just stay away from dual extrusion flexible. And before I leave the topic of flexible, I did purchase some third-party eSun flexible, put it in open material mode. I really did have to tweak the settings a good bit from what I thought I would have to, but I think I got a really nice print by doing that. This stuff is a different consistency than the Sindoh Flexible. It's much more flexible, much more bendy. It's strong as hell, I can tell you that. You're not going to break it easily. And I printed another Flex 44 here with some outside walls and very low infill percentage. This stuff really sticks to the bed. Now just to give you an idea on this eSun, it's more of a 95A on the hardness level, and I think Sindoh really wants 98 or 100 or better because of the Bowden extruder. But my settings, as I was talking about, I had to put the nozzle at about 240 on this, even though they called for 210. And I changed the bed to 0 Celsius and a 105% flow compensation, and really slow, printed it at 30 millimeters per second. But the big difference is no retraction, even with the Bowden, so I'm going to try that in the future and see how it works. So, Flexible, what do I think about it? Well, a couple weeks ago I was very disappointed. There was a lot of jams, a lot of problems. You know, it can go in the nozzle in the head and cool down and get stuck in there, and then when it tries to push it through or pull it back into the cartridge, there's jams on the spool. So I think it's an advanced topic. I'm not going to knock it for that. I like that they have it for open material and they allow us to do it, but you have to understand what you're doing. So try 240 on the nozzle, slow printing at 30 millimeters per second, a cold bed, 0 on the bed, and most importantly, maybe turn off the retraction. I was trying more retraction to pull it back in, and that jogging back and forth seemed to jam up in there. And when I turned it off, at least with this open source, it looks nice and there were no jams and it's just this constant flow. And of course, dual extruder with Flexible, probably not going to happen. Too much jogging back and forth and sitting around and heating up, even with a prime pillar, I don't think it's going to work. Also, you need to do a full nozzle cleaning when switching out of Flexible back to PLA. So just remember, it's an advanced topic. I appreciate them letting us do it. We all have to learn about it, and I'll probably do another video in the future with some things that I've learned. So there we go with the sample prints I did on this machine. These two over here, in general, the PLA prints very beautifully, even with 2 color, no jamming, no problems. Switching into open material mode, you can do PETG. I don't print a lot of it, but I think it could be tweaked to come out very nice, and it's stronger than the PLA. It seems you want to lay it down as opposed to squishing it down on the bed for that first layer. Here's a little Lego I did just as a sizing thing. Flexible, the octopus and the rocket. Again, with that, print the outside layers, no infill, real durable. Same with these bracelets, but again, the design was very nice, very strong. That's the Sindoh Flexible filament. It's good stuff. Available in your choice of colors. The ABS, decent finish on the bed, strong, but warping issues on the corners, as to be expected. Here are some PLA prints that I printed using the PVA nozzle and the PVA Plus, which is water-soluble support material, and I'll do a separate video on that. But it lets you print things like coils and little chain links and things that you couldn't otherwise do without water-soluble supports. And as I discussed, my attempts at dual extruder Flexible in various states of disarray here. I mean, like I said, it can kind of work, but look at the quality of it there. You're just constantly fighting the oozing and trying to keep it clean so that it can print the next layer, and eventually you either keep after it or you just give up. And because of all the retraction and sitting the head off to the side while it waits for the other one, there's a lot more jams and problems with it. But look, you can get some really nice prints with single color flexible material as long as you get your settings right and understand what you're doing. So with that, I'll close out this video on some of my initial print samples from this machine.